Hey, so today I'm going to be going over how to make a cutout image of your characters that you can use in forum avatars, your signatures, RP scenes, or anything else you can think of using it for. Um, I've had a lot of people ask me how I made my signature on our guild's official forums and if I can make one for them, but teach a man to fish and all that, so I figured I'd just go ahead and put together this video guide instead. This method should work for pretty much any MMO out there or any video game with a third-person view, really. But I'm going to use Star Wars The Republic to demonstrate because it's the one I'm most familiar with. I've also used this for Guild Wars 2 and a bunch of single-player games as well, though. So the first step is just to find an area in your game that has pretty good lighting. I'm going to use the Coruscant Stronghold because it has like a nice sunset effect. Um, Once you do that, you want to turn off your user interface, and I don't remember what the default key binding is for that, but I bound mine to J, and I was just doing it something simple like that because it's a great way to take really nice screenshots. Obviously, don't bind it to something you might accidentally hit in combat because that could be bad. But any single key or even a shift modifier should work pretty well. You also want to see what your print screen is bound to. You can use the in-game print screen feature. I've noticed the one in Star Wars is a little buggy. Other games are more reliable, I think. But so yeah, bind that to something useful as well. Another method is to use an external program like Fraps, which is what I use for all my screenshots. It's free to download. At least for screenshots it is. And see, there's Fraps. You can have it running in the background, and you can set up a key minus F9 to take screenshots. You can actually see the little frame rate indicator up there in the corner. And it'll flash when you take a successful Fraps screenshot. So you can do it with the in-game screenshot feature. So I'm going to hit print screen. Actually, I'm going to turn the interface off first. There we go. And I'm going to hit print screen, and it froze a little bit, which means it took. If it doesn't freeze, then your thing is probably bugged. You can try relogging, or I don't know, just try again later and hope it works. But yeah, I got really tired of my screenshots not taking in Star Wars, so that's why I downloaded Fraps. So you can zoom in and out to get however much of your character in the image you want. So if you just want like a portrait, you can zoom like all the way in. If you want their whole body, you can do that. You can obviously change the angle around. It's kind of a trade-off because the more of them you have in the picture, the lower resolution it'll be. And obviously you want to have your graphics turned up to the maximum settings before you do this because you want your image to look really nice. So I'm going to try to get all of her in there if I can. And maybe do a little bit of a side image there. So when she stops turning her head, I'm going to take the image with Fraps. There we go, and you saw the thing flash, which means it took. I'll take another one just in case. And actually, let's turn it a little bit more. Let's go with that. All right, so now what we're going to do is use a video editing program. Photoshop is obviously the best one. If you have Photoshop, I would definitely recommend using that, and that's what I'm going to do to demonstrate first. There are some free alternatives which are not as powerful and not as easy to use, and you can get those online. I'll discuss those a little bit later, but for now, just to get the gist of what we're doing, I'm going to use Photoshop, because again, that's the program I'm most familiar with. So there is Photoshop. You're going to go to File, Open, and I already have it in the Fraps folder. So if you took it with the MMO's default screenshot taker, it'll probably be under Documents and then under that game's category. At least it is for Star Wars and I think Guild Wars 2 as well. There's a screenshot folder there, but we're just going to use the Fraps version. All right, so there we go. We have our image. The first thing I would probably do is layer from background, just so you have a layer to work with. And then with Photoshop, it's nice and easy because you have really powerful zoom. You can zoom in like as far as you want to go. Oh, her eyes are closed. All right, let's get a better image. Try one of the other ones. People are always blinking during their photos. Okay, that should be good. So I'm going to layer via background. Layer 0 is a fine name for that. Then the tool we're going to use for this is the polygonal lasso tool, which is right here. You may have to do a drop down if you have the default lasso tool selected. Just click and hold, and this little menu will come up, and you want the polygonal lasso tool. So now what I like to do is zoom in as far as you can get before those little white boxes or white lines pop up. You can actually turn those off, but I like having them just in case. But if you zoom, the farther in you zoom, the finer your lines are going to be, which is nice, but it'll also take longer. So if you have a lot of characters, that can get really tedious. And honestly, once you cut them and then zoom out, you probably won't, notice any bit of if you miss a pixel here and there, it's not going to be noticeable at all. So I'm just going to go to this level of zoom for brevity. You can start anywhere you want to on the character. It doesn't really matter. And this is why it's nice to have a nice simple background too. You can easily tell what's part of the character and what isn't. Because sometimes if you have a background that's similar colors, you have to like zoom out and be like, oh, is that part of their weapon or their tail or what, what is that I'm actually cutting? So you basically want to you click with the tool to select a point, and every time you click, it makes a point in this polygon, which you're eventually going to cut out. So you want to basically just trace the outline of your character as closely as you can. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to matter. Err on the side of being inside your character. So try not to get any background. If you miss a bit of the character themselves, it's not a big deal. Um, Alternately, you could err on the other side and get some of the background in it, and then go in later with like the eraser tool and very carefully erase those extra pixels. But I'm not that patient of a person, so I'm not going to do that. Um, like this, you can kind of tell her ponytail's kind of messed up a little bit there, because the game does sort of have the edges, the outline of your character fade in with the background, as most games do. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit there, tracing her hair. I'm going to be a little sloppy with this actually, because I want to get this show on the road. We're just going to chop off that little bit of bangs there. As you can see, I've been going at this for, I don't know, 30 seconds a minute, whatever it's been. And so far I just have her head done. So it can take a little bit, especially if you have lots of characters and want a good level of detail. Um, One trick I'm going to show you now while I'm at it, also if you just push the edge of the screen, the Photoshop will scroll, which is really nice and helpful. A lot of free programs do not do that, which gets really annoying. Um, don't double click ever when you're using the lasso tool, because if you do, it'll automatically close the loop, and sometimes it'll close in weird ways and you'll have to restart. Control D to get rid of that. So what you can do if you've traced something that's really complicated, her head really isn't that complicated, but I'm going to use that as an example, you can close the polygonal lasso. You just click on your starting point, and if you hover over it, you'll see that little circle up here by the lasso. That means it's going to close if you click. Make sure you see that before you click, otherwise you'll be clicking all day trying to close your outline. All right, so I'm going to close this, and then once you have a piece of them, you want to, is it just regular? Yeah, you just right click on it, and then you do layer via cut. Um, and then you can toggle the other layer to see now you just have her head. Yay! I think if I cut this, I hope that white line isn't actually there. It shouldn't be. Now make sure you have the main layer selected. You can even turn off the other layer if you want to again, so that you're not cutting on the wrong layer. Although if you're familiar with Photoshop, you can always change the layer you're selecting later on. All right, so I'm going to go back and cut out the rest of her body now. And like I said, I'm going to be kind of sloppy with this because I don't want this video to be an hour long. So let's get her shoulder spikes in there. And this is just an example so you get the idea. It doesn't have to be perfect, really. Alright, there's her pauldron. Going for her cape. More of her cape. Capes are nice and easy because they're just basically a straight line. Alright. And there's the bottom of her cape. And gotta get her boots now. It's actually a pretty good example outfit. This one doesn't have anything too complicated around the edges, so it's nice and easy to trace. Like I said before, if you want to be more exact with these lines, just take your time a little bit more, zoom in a little farther. You get the idea. Yep, I probably made that too close, but whatever. Okay, we're going up the other side of her cape. And get her lightsaber in there. You could obviously just omit the lightsaber if you didn't want it to be in the image, but I mean, what's a Jedi without her lightsaber, right? This gets a little complicated up here. And as you can see, there's a little area down there which we're going to cut out in a bit. Depending on the angle of your character, you most likely will have a zone or two like that. So I'll show you how to handle that in a second. I could have also done this zone that way as well. Okay, there's her glove and her gauntlet thing. Alright, I'm not going to mess with these. Well, these chains are kind of... Yeah, it's gonna be hard to get. Okay, whatever. I'll do this again if I ever use this character or this outfit in a signature or anything. Or a YouTube banner. That's actually something else I use this for, is making the YouTube banner on my channel page. You can see it has all my characters. Right now it has all my characters from Star Wars and Guild Wars 2 up there, because those were the two MMOs I was playing heavily when I made it. I'll probably do another edition of it at some point, now that a lot of my characters have new looks from the alpha designer. And I don't play Guild Wars 2 as much, so I'll probably take most of my Guild Wars 2 characters off of that and maybe add some single player games I've been playing on there. Okay, anyway, so we're on the right layer. If you're on the wrong layer by accident, just make sure you choose the right layer at this point. And same thing, layer via cut. And see, there you go. Now you want to merge these two layers together, so hold down Shift and select the other layer, then right click and merge layers. And there we go. And actually, it looks like we are going to have that white line. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm pretty sure there's a way around that. I don't know if I want to worry about fixing that now or not. I guess I will, because I'm tedious like that. But actually, I don't know if this is going to work. I should probably be using the that autofill tool, but I don't even remember where it's at, honestly. So I'm just gonna. This is gonna look a little weird, I think, but I just want to cover this up so it's not a glaringly obvious white line. Like I said, I'm not going to really use this image for anything, so I don't care if it's messed up. Oh, lagging a bit. Thank you, Avast. Do not want to update. Okay. Obviously, Photoshop is a very powerful program with a lot of intricacies, so if you don't know it that well, don't be too intimidated. The basics of it are pretty easy, as I've been showing you now. It's been a while since I've used Photoshop for anything complicated, so I forget how to do a lot of the more complicated stuff. But one of the nice things about Photoshop is that for anything you want to do, there's probably 5.5 different ways of doing it, some easier than others. So like this is probably not the best way to do what I'm doing right now, but it works. So yeah. I would recommend not doing what I just did, actually, and try to do it all in one giant lasso if you can, just to avoid this problem. But if you keep double clicking by accident and you keep losing your progress, this is something that I did when I was doing mine, and I didn't have these white lines, so I don't. There must be some kind of. It's probably the I don't know, anti-aliasing or something. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but yay, there we go. So yeah, her neck looks a little weird, but again, when you zoom out all the way, there's no way you're gonna even notice that. All right, so there you go. You have your character on their own layer now. You can crop the image down. Image crop. There you go. And then for that little area we had in here, where was it? Down by the lightsaber. Make sure you have the correct layer selected, and you get rid of it pretty much the way you would expect to get rid of it. Get the lasso tool again, trace it, same as before, and close off the loop, and then simply hit delete. Ta-da! And it's gone. So now if you put a different background behind her, I think I might have cut a little bit too much into the lightsaber, but the background will show through instead of the original background from the screenshot. It's also really nice too if the forms you're using them on have a default background color, that'll just appear instead of having this giant white box around your avatar, which can look a little silly. So then you're going to go to File, Save As. I would save it as a PNG image because that will preserve the transparency. Where are you, PNG? There you are. So let's just call this Leovara demonstration. And there you go. One thing I'll say right now, make sure the file size isn't too large, because if you upload it to Imager, one of those photo hosting sites, and the transparency isn't preserved, if it starts giving it like a white or black background, that just means your file is too large. If you reduce the file size, that'll fix that issue. I ran into that while I was doing some of my signatures. And they really don't need to be super high quality, because the size you're going to be displaying these things probably isn't going to be that large either. Then once you have your image, you want to go to a image upload site. Imager.com is by far my favorite. It's nice and simple. Upload images, browse your computer, choose the one you want, and start upload. It'll take a couple seconds, and before you know it, Ta-da! And you can even see the background there. Um, yeah, I should have cropped it a little more inside there and there and there, because you can see part of the background around the edges, which makes it look a little weird. And that's why I see like the parts where I actually did it a little bit inside. That looks a lot better against the background than the parts where I was a little bit sloppy. So yeah, take your time with it. Make sure it looks good, and you'll have a really nice avatar to work with. And you can just, here all the code is right here, so you can copy paste that directly into whatever type of forums or wherever it is you want to use this. And if you wanted to do something else with the character, if you wanted to, say, stitch multiple characters together to make a signature or put some kind of background you like behind it, you would just do it again to the other characters and copy paste them in here, or duplicate the layers in here, or place the image in here, like I said, 5.5 ways. And then I'm just going to duplicate the same layer for now, just to show you what I mean. So pretend that there's two different characters here. Then you can put one, actually I'm going to make the canvas size a little bigger. All right, there we go. So you can put one in front of the other. You can use the regular transform tools to flip them, rotate them, whatever you want to do. So it looks kind of weird with the bangs. I would suggest when you take the picture of the character, decide what angle you're going to use them for in advance if you're having multiple characters lined up, and then take the screenshot at that angle, because if you flip it, it'll look a little odd. But you can change the order so you can see which one's in front. Ta-da. And say I want to add a background to it. Just go online. I don't know. Cool Star Wars background. Let's see what comes up. Oh, it's like desktop backgrounds, I guess, right? Let's use, I don't know. Let's see, Star Destroyer Bridge. Let's say we want her standing on a Star Destroyer. Obviously, it would be difficult to find a good image for it. But if you really searched, I'm sure you could. So we're just going to copy paste that in there. You probably should save it and place it, but whatever, I'm lazy. There you go. You Control T, edit the size, and the proportions right. Before you know it, you have your characters standing on the bridge of a Star Destroyer. Ta-da! And you could have all your characters lined up in front of, I don't know, choose your favorite planet or whatever it is you want to do as a background if you just wanted to have a real background and not a transparent layer to it. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Photoshop. You can use other programs, and I'm going to actually do a bit of research right now and try to find a free alternative that works almost as well. So I'll be back in a minute to demonstrate how to do it with a cheaper alternative in case you can't afford Photoshop. All right, so let's say that you don't have any way of getting your hands on Photoshop. You don't want to spend a couple $100 to make a signature. You don't want to use up your free trial or already have. You don't have any friends with Photoshop. Your school doesn't have a computer lab with Photoshop. If there's no way you can get to Photoshop, a good alternative is onlinephotoshopfree.net, which I just discovered today. It's more annoying than Photoshop in a lot of ways, and part of that might be due to my lack of familiarity with the program, but it'll still get the job done. So, and it's free, which is always nice. So go to Open Image from Computer. Choose your screenshot again, same as always. I like to go to View and then Full Screen Mode, and then maximize the image size. Then zoom in as far as you can. You can do that with the scroll wheel, with the zoom thing, with the little slider here. There is a limit to how much you can zoom in, which kind of sucks, unlike Photoshop, where you can zoom in and see the individual pixels pretty much. So it'll be a little harder to get those fine lines, but it still shouldn't make too much of a difference in the long run. Same thing as Photoshop. Click on the lasso tool. Up here is the polygonal lasso tool. You can use the freehand lasso tool if you're really risky, but the only time I might want to use that is if you have like a tablet and like a stylus where you could draw very specifically, because if you try to do it with a cursor, it's not going to work. It'll be horrible. Don't do it. Yeah, so polygonal lasso, same thing as Photoshop. One of the many annoying things about this program is once you start tracing something with the lasso tool, you can't then move the image at all, or it'll mess it up. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's say I'm just trying to trace her pauldron, and I want to zoom in a bit, or I want to zoom out a bit. So say I zoom out, because I can't zoom in anymore, and it's not even letting me zoom out. Zoom out, there we go. See, now the lasso is over here in this random section of the screen. It doesn't move with the image, and it's the same when you scroll up and down. The selection will stay right where it is in the position on the screen and not keep the position on the image. There may be some way to change that with the program. If there is, I don't know it, and I haven't been able to find it. So I would simply suggest doing it the old-fashioned way and do it all at once. Another annoying thing is I can't figure out how to deselect things, like this tool I have selected now. I can't click on another tool because it still keeps going. I can't do text, I can't do anything. The lasso tool does not go away until you close it. So be very careful closing it. Make sure you click right where you started. Because if you don't and miss, like I almost did. If you do miss it, the only way to get rid of it that I've been able to find is to refresh the browser and start again. Which isn't that bad, but it's still annoying. Alright, so I don't know how to deselect that, so I'm just going to start all over again with a new image, or with a new lasso selection. So I'm going to go through and do just the top half of it for now. I'm not going to be as precise as I was with Photoshop because I don't want it to take forever again. I'm not going to care about her little spiky things there. Or her ponytail, really. Alright, there we go. For anyone who watches the show Arrow, this outfit reminds me a lot of, what's her name? Nissa Al Ghul's outfit. Wasn't intentional, but after I made it, I was watching Arrow and I was like, hey, it looks kind of like Leah Vara's group ranked outfit. Alright. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so I'm just going to chop it off right here. There are probably better chopping off points, but whatever. Okay, again, be very careful with where you close the loop. Once you do that, you want to go to Edit and Cut. And then you want to go to File, New Image, Create from Clipboard, and Transparent. It's very important that you click Transparent if you want to preserve the having no background so that you can actually use it on a form or something. I'm going to change the canvas size a bit so I have room for her legs. Anchor, I probably want that, and height, just make it, oh, I can't type things, I have to use a slider, I don't know why that is. Alright, that should be plenty enough room. I'm going to go back to my other image, scroll down, and chop up the other half and stitch together. Obviously, if you were doing this image yourself, you'd probably want to do it in 3 pieces. I'm just going to get as much as I can in there. Depending on how much room you have in your avatar, you might not want the whole thing in there anyway. It actually looks better a lot of the time if you do cut your character off at the torso or something, or thereabouts. So, la-da-da. Alright. I'm being very sloppy with this, obviously. So when you do it, take your time, because you want it to look good. And close it off, same thing, edit, cut, then go to your other image, and Control V or edit paste. I guess you can't Control V. Alright, edit paste, and there you go. You have a separate layer with her bottom half. I can't zoom in. Grr. Like I said, this program is more annoying than the other one, but it's the trade-off for being free. And it has that area there. So I have to cut that out now. Same thing. You can also use probably the magic wand tool to do this. I can't delete it for some reason. Do I have to select it? Edit, cut. There we go. Okay. Edit, cut did the trick. And then you select the layer and just drag it until it kind of matches up as best as it's going to. Okay, that seems too bad. Just as with Photoshop, you probably want to go in and edit out that like little white line there. I can just do that now. I'm going to do it the simplest method I can think of and just do the exact same thing again. Cut out this piece from this layer. Alright, looks like there's no arm behind. Oh, that's right. You have to cut it. Control X. Nope. Edit cut. Aha, there we go. Alright. So like I said, be more careful with it, and your image will always look a lot better than mine does. Um, but even so, even being super sloppy, that's not bad quality. I missed your cape a bit, but whatever. So yeah, you could use that, put it in your avatar. Oops. I'm still selecting that image. Control Z. Okay. And actually, yeah, you're probably going to want to merge these layers together. I can't select more than one layer. Or maybe I can, and the keybinds are just merged down. There we go. And that should do it. Yay, okay, now you have her on one layer. Same thing, file, save as. You want to make sure you go to PNG because you want to preserve the transparency. Actually, you know what? Oops. Before I do that even, I'm going to crop the image. Let's say I only want this part of her for the, yeah, I'll get that little thing, the little flap there. Image, crop, ta-da, and this will be a nice avatar image for forums or whatever you want to use it for. I think you guys kind of get the gist of what I'm doing at this point. So save, PNG, okay, Leah demo 2, and there you go. Now you have your image to upload to the forums and use as an avatar. Again, to reiterate, the more time you spend on this, the better it will look, but it's not too hard to get a decent looking image for your avatar or signature or whatever it is you want to use it for. If you do use it for signature, this is the same thing as Photoshop. You do this for all your characters. Place them all in the same image. Make sure you preserve the transparency of the background. And voila, you have a signature. All right, so let's say you have all your characters done. They're all cut out. They're all in their own images. And you place them or copy paste them into the same file in Photoshop or in that other free online program. Although, like I said, that'll be a little more tricky, but definitely still doable. And it'll work more or less the same way as what I'm about to show you. But again, if you have any way to get to Photoshop, I highly recommend it. So the two things I add on to mine to make the signature look kind of nice is a bar and then the character's names in text. So for the bar, all this pretty much is, I believe how I made this a long time ago, and I've just been copying and pasting it into every update since. So I kind of had to think back. But what I did was, I believe I actually took a screenshot of the loading screen, and then I just traced the shape of the border there because I thought that was a nice shape. I tried using the actual just cut out from the screen, and it looked really bad. So I made my own, but I did use the shape from that. You could also just kind of make the shape on your own. It's a pretty simple shape there. I can zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little better. But what you're going to do is, I'm going to turn off all the effects so you can see what it is. It's just a nice black shape there, a little curvy on the edges, just to give it some flair. Actually, it's not entirely covering up Arathane's leg, I just noticed. Actually moving her up a bit. But once you do that, you want to add some effects to it. We're using the effects thing here. You want to I added bevel, emboss, inner shadow, color overlay, and drop shadow. So, okay. So I'm just going to go through and show you what options I did, and you can play around with it to make yours look a little different if you want to. But you can see inner blend, smooth, I did 351%, size 14, soften 0, direction up. I mean, you can freeze the video here and look at all the options I did. For the color, I just used a yellow to make it look kind of gold. Just select somewhere in the top middle of the yellowish area, or you can input the exact numbers if you want to. Then I did an inner shadow. See the direction and everything here. Again, pause the video if you want to get the exact figures to use it yourself. I did a color overlay, again, that yellow color, and a drop shadow. And it's been a long time since I've used Photoshop, and I don't really remember how I did this, so some of this might be redundant, but if you do it the exact same way, I can pretty much guarantee you that it's going to look the exact same as mine does. Yeah, so you want to apply those 4 effects to it, and I want to turn them back on again. And when you do, you have this nice bar, and you want to move that layer to the top, obviously, and use it to cover up the feet or the lower areas of all your characters. If part of your character is sticking down, like say like this, and you don't want to move them up, you want just that much of them, then you just select that layer, drag a box up to the part you want to cut off, hit delete, and ta-da, it's gone. So if you're using Photoshop, that's super easy. If you're using the other program, Also, probably easy. You'll probably have to do the cut thing again because there's not really just a delete. You have to actually cut things, but it should work the same way. For text, I believe this is a custom font I downloaded. Trajan Pro Bold. Maybe not. So see if you have Trajan Pro Bold. If not, I'm sure you can just Google it and download it online. Um, the font size is very low just because of the quality of the image I had to work with. You can obviously make it bigger if you only have like one character or something. Um, and that too, I did. I'm pretty sure it's the same effects as before, more or less. Different color. I did I guess a goldish color here. I played around with this a little bit, and you could probably play around with it a lot more and maybe find a better combination that you like. But again, I'm just going to go through and show you the effects I added to it to give it that cool kind of Star Wars looking color. Um, I don't know if this is the text from the game or not. A lot of games you could actually find the font the game uses online. If they don't have it officially released, a fan more likely than not has made a fan version of it. Fonts aren't that hard to find. Um, that's what I did with Guild Wars 2. I found a Guild Wars 2 font somebody had made, which was really cool. Um, if you're not playing Star Wars and have a different game and don't want to use this bar, there are a lot of other options for Guild Wars 2. If you look at my signature for that, you can see that I made I just used a piece of a game, piece of the inventory actually in the game, which looked kind of cool, softened the edges, and it was a little more complicated than the Star Wars is and not quite as clean and neat. But then again, that's kind of the graphic style of Guild Wars 2 is less clean and neat than SWTOR, so it kind of makes sense. Um, but yeah, play around with it, play around with different fonts and different texts and different options and see what you can get that looks cool. Um, and when you're done with your signature, same thing. You save it as a PNG, upload it to Imager, and there you go. So yeah, that's about all there is to it. Good luck making your signature. If you have any tips or suggestions of your own, feel free to put them in the comment section below. Like I said, I'm not the world's foremost Photoshop or image editing expert. I just really know the basics. So I'm sure there's a lot of shortcuts and things that I missed that could probably help out others. And if you use this method to make avatar or signature of your own, you want to share it, post it in the comments, post a link, and I'll check it out and take a look. And it's always cool to see what people can make on their own. So yeah, thanks for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, and have a good one.